Hello.
Hello?
Hello, hello. Welcome to the inaugural
hello.
episode of Cinemascope. I'm your good friend, Dylan. I have here my pal Jamie.
Hey, how's it going?
That's as much of an intro as I care to give. Whatever. Okay.
I mean, I've never been an intro guy either.
Let's skip to this. All right. So about a while ago, I saw the movie Transformers 5. The last night. And I was floored. I couldn't fucking believe it. It is insane. People talk about so bad it's good movies, and they have no idea. Where I legitimately think Transformers 5 is such an awfully poor... I have to qualify it. Such a weird, oddly produced film that it is wrapped around to being so unique. I can't call it anything but art. It is a unique piece of art. And I have shown this to multiple people who have all walked away with the same impression I have of it being stunning and no qualifiers, just a stunning movie. Jamie here, who is a very big filmophile,
Yes.
legally, he's not allowed within 30 feet of a movie theater.
No. But as soon
Has
as I get
not-
within, 35 feet, they start, wailing the sirens.
Has not seen it. So I thought...
Last night. Seen all four of them, not the last night.
Yeah. So that immediately was like, oh shit, we should watch The Last Night. But then Jamie said, well, I've kind of been wanting to watch all of them. Would you be down to do that? Which sounded fun. And then he floated the idea of like, oh, we should do a podcast. Because we've been trying to do something like this in some way or another for fucking ever.
Yeah. I always get called Fee because
Yeah.
I guess I'm just not used to broadcasting my voice anymore.
Right. So here we are. We started with the first one. We've both seen it. I have not seen Revenge of the Fallen since middle school. I don't believe Jamie has watched it yet as part of this process.
No, not yet. I was going to do it last night to sort of psych me up, but I said no, I'll hold off. I'll get my thoughts down on the first movie and then I'll watch Revenge of the Fallen again.
I think that was the right move.
Yeah.
And before we started this, I watched the movie. We watched it independently. Yes, I had a lot of ideas that I was going to go over, and I was going to talk about the state of blockbuster films before this, and Shia LaBeouf's career, and all these different things, because in the back of my mind, I thought, this movie is not going to be super interesting, and you're not going to have enough to talk about. It's probably going to be an okay action movie that's, a bunch of CGI.
It's the highest rated out of all. It's the highest rated out of all 6 of them on IMDb.
Quite a few people say they still like this first one. In fact,
Yeah,
I
and a lot of people chalk up their admiration for the first movie because it's not from Erin Kruger, who wrote the other 5 Michael Bay movies.
what? So after watching this, I got started interested in Transformers stuff again, and I was watching a video from a dude I respect, and he just offhandedly mentions, I still like that first movie. This movie is a fucking shit show.
It's a fucking mess.
I can't I legitimately, this is an obscene failure of a film.
It was one of those things where I was simultaneously disappointed that it wasn't a fucking train wreck like the other fucking 5 movies, but at the same time, it just astounded me how wrong people are about this fucking.
It's
pile of crap.
It's so close to being a train wreck, but it's just boring enough to not be an interesting train wreck.
It's more restrained, and I don't know why, because I feel like Michael Bay had complete creative control over it. There was no studio meddling saying don't go crazy with this, be more reserved with this element. But the point I'm trying to get across is it doesn't feel like the sequels, but it has all the same flaws as them.
I looked around a little bit about pre-production stuff and everything for this. I kind of just, not super deep. I didn't listen to commentaries or anything, but I found out some stuff where, like, Michael Bay used to do a lot of, like, car commercials and shit. So he understood how to, like, film a car correctly. And he was able to kind of...
Yeah, also, like, he also started off with, like, music videos and stuff.
Yeah. And, like, they got Industrial Light and Magic, which is the big fucking name in special effects, to do the special effects.
Yeah, Spielberg's company.
Yeah, and he taught them how to, like, light machinery and everything so that it popped and it looked interesting.
And I was reading it took them 38 hours to render a single frame of the Autobots.
And, like, so much...
throughout all the movie.
Yeah, like, so much time and effort went into it. And I thought about it, and I have seen other movies where, like, yeah, no, the special effects are kind of boring or bad, and they take me out of it. Have you seen Logan, the Wolverine movie?
Yeah, I saw Logan. Yeah.
I like Logan. It's a good
rewatched
movie.
them all again recently.
Yeah. But there are a couple of shots in that movie. Very specifically, I remember the villain in that movie has, like, a robot hand. And I remember the robot hand looking like shit. And I remember it really took me out of the movie whenever I saw it.
Well, the problem with that is, like, it's from like weird period of 2016, 2017, where, like, they were giving, like, smaller budgets to R-rated superhero movies just to see how they would, like, play out financially.
Right.
So Logan never had the biggest budget to begin with anyway, so I can overlook that.
And everyone I've told that to has been like, that's petty, you're being, like, petty about it. And I am. It took me out of it. There's no logical reason it should have... Yeah, there's no logical reason it should have...
I get why that with movies. I never noticed that in Logan, but I've been like that with movies.
But I look at it and, like, well, the rest of the movie is shot really well, and the story is structured great, and there's an interesting arc.
The whole...
So
Logan doesn't really rely too much on CGI.
You're right. It's only really
like,
that hand.
Stuff.
And then there's a couple of shots later on, but it's mostly all practical. So, like, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that's still a good movie. When I look at this movie, when I look at Transformers, I see someone who was dedicated to not have that moment. They wanted that hand to look pristine. Yeah. And they didn't fucking...
He wanted every cent to be on camera.
He didn't figure out how to do anything else. He didn't figure out how to make the story coherent. He didn't write characters with arcs. He didn't come up with a point. He didn't pace it properly. He didn't light it very interestingly. Like, every other thing except for the effects. Like, the effects in this movie are amazing. Everything else about this movie...
these movies, they have about 5 different screenwriters.
Yeah, like, it's a nauseating film to look at. Because it never fucking stops. And it doesn't... long as hell.
Well, I noticed, like, during a lot of the comedy scenes, I just edited, like, action shots, and it doesn't work at all. None of the jokes land because of just how he edits it.
Like, dudes always, like, there's always that criticism of a movie where it's like, yeah, the shots aren't very interesting. It's a lot of A shot, B shot of, like, 2 people talking in a room. And, okay, sure, on paper, yeah, you shouldn't do that. But in practice, have you ever watched a movie of an A shot, B shot, and been taken out of it because of that?
I can't think of one per se.
Like, it's like, I remember reading a thing that was like, it was an old writing thing about how, like, when you're writing a book, you should never have it end with he said, she said, right? You shouldn't say blah 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 blah, he said. You should find a more creative way to say that. Yeah. And then I read like
or if the context is right, you can omit it entirely.
Yeah, and like I would agree with that, but I remember reading a thing from some either a critic or a novelist who was like, I've been putting he said, she said in every single book I've ever written for 20 years, and no one's ever complained about it. It doesn't matter. No one notices it. No one who's actually paying attention or gives a shit notices it. That's what this is like...
It's just what connoisseurs like to sort of, like, dissect.
This is a movie by someone who was disgusted at A-shot, B-shot discussions. So his film is constantly moving. The camera's never still. It's constantly active. And
Going back to what I was saying about the humor,
it makes me fucking...
I do...
It makes me fucking motion sick watching the movie at a point. It's awful.
Yeah, and like I was saying about his, I like Michael Bay's sort of fast-paced humor, but in this movie it just doesn't work because, like you said, it's got to try. The shot has to be entertaining, it has to be engaging. You cannot look away or like slow down. So when people are delivering like comedy lines, like you can't focus on what's being said because you're just constantly fucking focusing on something else.
There's never a quiet moment, and it's. Do you know what negative space is?
Yeah, that's the part of the camera, the mise en scene that is not taken up by any sort of like focus.
When I went to an art school in high school, and negative space was like a big thing in like art, where they're like the place that you don't put anything is as important as the place where you are actively drawing. There is no negative space in this movie. There's not a single moment where it's never quiet. There's no time for you to react or laugh at anything. There's not a
even when there is a quiet moment, even when there is a rare quiet moment, it's still just obnoxious to look at because the whole movie has this fucking weird, like, yellow tinge to it.
Oh yeah, it's like super
ugly to look at.
It's super, like, the color palette, the saturation is so fucking high. It's so ridiculous. It's like, it burns into your retinas, and like, if it was like an hour 20, right? Maybe that would work. Maybe having this really stylish, tight, unique film could work. But it's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's fucking...
And they're gonna get longer from there.
It's insane. Like, even Transformers 5, which again, I think Transformers 5 is art. I stopped paying attention in the last half hour because I just... You can't process anymore. The brain hits a limit.
You just phase out of it. You take it in, but like you're not paying attention.
Yeah, I'm going to.
And you're only taking it in because of how just simplistic the narrative is.
Yeah, I'm going to. I have a list. I have about a page of. These are just one-off comments I came up with while I was watching it. And if you don't have any better structure, I figured we would just go down this list, because it is like a point-by-point plot thing, almost.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to do like beat for beat, like what happens, and then we dissect that moment, but we can go off this list.
Hold on 1 second. Something is like... One of my Discord things is freaking out. Okay, hopefully that'll do it. Yeah, because I figure, you know... I don't want to I don't want to, you know, put the cart before the horse or anything on this. But I already have gone through, like, 6 things in my head where I'm like, I gotta talk about this. I gotta talk about this right now.
Yeah.
So, okay. My sort of onus on this film, my sort of starting point, is that the film has 3 sets of characters. 2 of which are completely unnecessary, and none of them are actual Transformers.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because the Transformers feel like side players in their own fucking movie.
Like, they feel almost like dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, where like, oh, they're there, but they're there as a threat for the main characters.
Yeah.
But not in an interesting way either. Like, imagine Jurassic Park, but the dinosaurs are constantly fighting other dinosaurs.
Yeah, it just becomes wallpaper at that point.
Yeah, but like, that's the level of characterization they have. Like, you know, even that's kind of generous, because I'm thinking about it, and like, Godzilla has more characterization in a Godzilla movie than, you know, Optimus Prime has here.
Yes. But then again, Godzilla also has like 24 different movies.
That's true. Yeah, you pick a random Godzilla movie, it's probably not very... It probably has.
And they're all like different interpretations of the same character, whereas Transformers is just one consecutive franchise.
So, okay. The first group, and they're the first ones we're introduced to, and they're probably the best one in the movie, is there's a group of soldiers.
Yes, out of all the characters, I think they have like the best writing, but that isn't saying much.
Because they're like, you know, I have it all written down here. This shit
they
was
have
so...
a purpose. They have a purpose that isn't just trying to fuck a sexy lady.
Yeah. this shit is so fucking corny, but every movie from the 2000s is like this, where the cast is always involving, there's always a soldier who works hard to defend the country, and all he wants, it's always a soldier, and all he wants to do is get home to his family, because he was away defending our country while his kid was being born. That's always the fucking story. It's because of 9/11 and the Iraq War and shit. And it's because, you know...
I mean, even after that, there was still... Like, American Sniper was that exact thing.
Oh, yeah. No,
that was, like, after the 9/11 boom.
It still happens, but it's not nearly as ever-present as it used to be. Yeah. But, like...
I think, like, Black Hawk Down is probably, like, the biggest offender there.
Yeah.
For, like, that kind of movie. Or, like, The Hurt Locker.
And, you know, part of the reason they do that is because the U.S. Department of Defense will bankroll your movie if you portray the United...
Michael Bay has them on fucking speed dial.
Yeah. Like, if you portray the United States government in a positive light, they will bankroll your film. They'll provide you with props, they'll provide you with personnel, because Hollywood is a recruiting arm of the U.S. military, whether, you know, you want to admit it, or whether or not you know it, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
There's that whole fucking thing about Top Gun, where Top Gun Maverick came out, like, last month. And I saw a lot of...
recruitment tool.
Yeah, I saw a lot of liberal critics being like, yeah, no, it's very transparently, this is to recruit, you know, the young and destitute into this glamorous life of soldierdom, which is not how it is at all. But then they also almost immediately were like, but damn, they actually made it into, like, a good movie, which was fascinating to watch.
Which, again, I've seen that done before, but so, like, The Hurt Locker does, like, a good job at that, even though that isn't a very glamorized portrayal of war. It still presents the soldiers as being objectively, like, the good guys.
Apparently, like, normally, the Department of Defense would not back a movie like Transformers, because it does present, like, the Transformers fuck up the U.S. government quite a bit.
Yeah, they're an unstoppable threat, whereas, like, usually the U.S. military is always, like, the winning force.
Apparently, Michael Bay convinced whoever he needed to convince by saying that, like, well, you know, the reason why you should let us portray these, you know, American military machines as monsters is because they're aliens who mimic our shit, and if aliens are gonna fuck anyone up on Earth, they're gonna fuck up, you know, with American hardware. Like, shit like that.
Yeah.
That's the tone of the whole fucking movie, right? Like, wouldn't it be cool to fuck shit up?
Yeah, the same with the fucking cars, you know, America's always better.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you a name of any of the soldiers, but they're reasonably likable.
I just know Josh Duhamel and Tyrese Gibson.
I think the black dude is named Fig.
That's Tyrese.
Yeah.
I believe.
There's like 3 or 4 of them. One of them, the one who looks like, who's that awful singer? Who's the ginger singer who might have jumped universes?
Who? Andrew WK?
No, he's ginger. He was in, Yesterday.
Oh, Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, yeah, Ed Sheeran, whatever the fuck. There's a dude who looks like Ed Sheeran who gets ganked pretty early on. But otherwise,
yeah,
you know,
I was thinking, like, you know, because they have, like, the nerdy guy, they're very much like the sort of, like, squad from Predator.
Yeah.
Except nowhere near as, like, well developed.
Well, yeah, it's the squad from Predator written by someone who
just the archetype.
It's
just someone who takes the archetype and fucking does nothing with it.
It's someone who thought the squad from Predator were, like, super cool and badass, and not a bunch of fucking morons who had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're fine. They're in the movie probably the least amount, but they're by far the most likable. And I think the opening act
I
of
didn't
the film...
like that one Mexican guy. I did not like the one Mexican guy. He felt like a walking stereotype. And, like, the whole purpose of his character was, like, we can't understand what you're saying.
Jamie, that dude was not Mexican. He was French.
Was he?
Yeah. He's speaking French. He's from New Orleans. I've gaslighted myself. Well, one of the characters says, you gotta stop speaking Spanish, man, I don't understand it. But that's a joke. He's from New Orleans because of shit. But I must have taken that joke literally then. Yeah, well, when I watched it, my copy didn't have any subtitles for it. They didn't subtitle him. It didn't even say, like, speaks French or anything like that. But that's, like, a classic war movie thing, right? Like, in...
Yeah, like, there's that joke in, like, Saving Private Ryan when the guy's like, oh, what does FUBAR mean? Oh, it's German.
Yeah. There's a fucking, one of the main characters in Apocalypse Now was a chef from New Orleans, and he was supposed to be, like, a cook, and he quit because of the way they, like, the U.S. government handles meat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine. And the opening of the movie is like a Black Hawk helicopter goes to their base, and it's a transformer, and it destroys the base so it can connect into the military network to steal some files. Which, like, they're in Iraq? Like, why are we keeping military secrets on, like, just a terminal in the middle of Iraq?
I mean, did they keep, like, did they store, like, private sensitive data in, like, on, like, enemy lines?
No. Like, they're specifically looking for, like Area 51 style shit, right? It would be one thing if it was like, oh, it's stealing our combat data. But no, it's like, it's trying to find information on, like, Black Ops shit. Like, there's no reason that would be on a file in, like, a server in fucking Iraq.
Now, was that a remote server, or was it actually stationed in Iraq where they were downloading it from?
No, because
it like a remote server connected them to, like, the Pentagon.
I would have to assume if that were the case, there must be easier ways to do it. But like it shows up and it grabs the server with its hand and starts downloading files. But like I don't know, like that's stupid. But I think the best scene in the movie is probably the scene after that, where it's the soldiers after they've escaped, and, like, the scorpion thing is chasing them.
Yeah, that's a genuinely, like, really good sequence, like, as far as, like, action sequences go, with, like, mecha.
Yeah. Like, that thing looks cool.
He did pull that off.
The way it, like, is digging through the sand is really interesting.
So, I do think it's funny how, like, the Taliban straight up, like, start, like, working with them. So,
I don't...
Like, back again.
So, I don't think they're supposed... That was my first thought. I don't think they're supposed to be the Taliban. I think they're supposed to be local resistance, because in the opening of the movie, the main soldier, whose name I don't know...
Yeah, he has that kid, doesn't he?
Yeah, he meets the kid, and the kid, like, clearly knows him, and that kid is in the town. Which implies that it's like they're working with the locals there, but it is kind of out of nowhere that like
you just see like these like four guys in like traditional like Taliban like get-ups like with their fucking AKs.
They're just wearing like and there's no establishing that they're like, a fighting force.
Just like stereotypical terrorist wear.
Yeah,
and they're just running for this big scorpion tail.
Yeah, you know, whatever. Minor shit. Like, I'm not gonna worry too much about shit like that. You didn't want to get bogged down in exposition. No. That's fine. It's a good scene. You know, I'll take what I can get. Also, another minor complaint, but, like, in the opening scene, it's like... And it's a well-done scene of, like, you know... We have a U.S. helicopter on fucking radar, but it won't respond to us, and it doesn't have a signature or whatever. And they're kind of like, what's this mean? You know, building expense. And then it lands at their base, and they're like, you know... So the scene of all the soldiers have their guns ready, and they're gonna shoot at it if it does anything. And then it transforms, and they shoot at it. But the scene of it, like, landing on the tarmac is at, like, sunset. And then the scene of it transforming is like in the dead of night. So it gives
that's like a Christopher Nolan mistake, where like you'll have like a character enter like a tunnel at like midday, and then they'll come out of it and be pitch black.
But even that, like, that sounds like a transition almost. This just sort of implies that Transformer was sitting on the tarmac for like 3 hours, and at no point did anyone decide to like check it or anything.
No, like, if they had made that, like, a point, like, you know, we've been waiting here for 3 hours and this thing hasn't done anything, that would be interesting. Because it would make you think, like, the Decepticon or whatever it is, like, trying to, like, plot how it's going to, like, tackle this.
Yeah, that could be
like,
interesting.
Huge military structure. But they didn't do that. He just cuts. All of a sudden, it's, like, the dead of night, and then he transforms.
Right. I think the next time we see them it's, like... the U.S. government has gotten all their like new NASA analysts in one room, and they're trying to get them to decode like the Transformer signal or whatever. That's the second group of characters, where it's this blonde lady who meets up with this fat black dude who's a super hacker.
Anthony Anderson.
Who's a
playing
super
a traditional Anthony Anderson role.
He's a super hacker who lives with his grandma and is a loser, but he hacks into the fucking Pentagon.
He hacks
for
the planet.
Fun. Yeah. At one point, a character literally says the words, "They hacked your firewall in 10 seconds."
I know.
It's
just amazing, like early to mid 2000s, like hacker exposition.
The like hacker group in this are by far the most expendable. They don't do anything for the story. They serve.
None of that is relevant. None of the hacking, the signal decoding at the end is relevant.
Yeah, like the signal decoding and shit is so the U.S. government finds out we're being attacked by Transformers, but like. The movie's called Transformers. I know that.
Yeah, exactly. And they go to like war at the end of the movie anyway, so like they're gonna find out like regardless.
It would have been way more interesting, like if you cut that scene you cut that arc entirely, and it's the soldiers, and they get to the whatever, and they call in, and now the soldiers have to convince them that some alien threat attacked them, and then
exactly.
And then
you've
like
got
I don't
two
know.
characters who are striving for the same goal, and like that need because. You have those two arcs running like simultaneously; they never get resolved.
Like it would be more interesting.
Just the one, and you focused on the soldiers, you would probably it would become relevant.
Yeah, like you have a scene of like the soldier, and he's being held in lockup, and he's like, "You gotta believe me," and then the commander's like laughing at him because he's like, "Oh, you're shell shocked. You're talking about nonsense." And then you cut to a scene, and it's like Starscream is like attacking an aircraft carrier and sinks it. And then you cut back to the dude, and he's like, "Oh my god, it's real! Like we're being attacked by machines." Like, and then you would
that's storytelling 101.
Yeah, like, and then that would have been like a cool way to introduce, like, hey, here's Starscream. He's kind of the leader of the Decepticons, which they don't do. Like, there's no structure to the Decepticons at all. If you do not know already who these characters are, you have no reason to suspect that. Like Megatron is important.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff showing the Decepticons kind of like gathering intelligence on the US military. There's
using their little like sort of like droids.
Yeah, there's that pretty long scene where it's a Transformer on Air Force One, like a small one.
God.
That kind of goes on.
That's one of the stupidest fucking moments in the entire movie. Well, like that like secretary is like getting Bush a fucking ding dong.
Yeah, she's getting
and then
him.
She goes to get it. She drops it on the floor. It rolls around the corner. Then she goes to pick it up and then just eats it.
Okay, yeah, like that scene.
For, like no reason.
Because like Bush, the president or whoever, it's a nondescript president.
It's Bush.
Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, yeah, the movie came out in 2007. It's Bush. But
He's
it's
a fucking
like
redneck. He's got a fucking southern accent. It's Bush.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, and she like gripes to her coworker like, oh, I joined the Air Force and all I get to do is bring the president fucking snack cakes. And I thought she was gonna pick it up off the ground and like dust it off and then take it to him, right? Like that would be a joke.
No, she picks it up and then she just like fucking mauls into it.
Yeah, she takes a bite out of it and she's like, ew, and it's like, bitch, it was on the floor.
What did you
expect?
It's just.
It was so weird.
No
like, if it was in a...
It's absurd.
If it was in, like, Mr. Show or Tim and Eric, I would call it subversive.
Yeah.
And it's very weird, because the rest of that scene is fine. I think the rest of that scene is pretty good, of, like, the little Transformer running around and shit. Like, it's a good little sequence.
But they just have this random fucking moment where I'm not even sure if it's supposed to be comedy or not.
It's so out of place.
Yeah.
I also did like that the little droid Transformer has the big data spike from RoboCop in its hand, and that's how
I like that. That's a good design.
It's such a dumb way to be like, yeah, no, that's how we'll deal with computers in the future. Just get an 8-inch fucking spike and jam it into your
Except he doesn't use it like RoboCop. He doesn't stab anyone with it.
No, it should have.
Yeah.
It's very weird that little drone thing comes back multiple times in the movie, and like the apex of the hacker storyline is they get in a gunfight with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Poor little guy.
Yeah. So those are the two like B plots of the film. One of which is completely unnecessary, and frankly, both of them are. You could cut both of them, but
just one of them is like much well-rounded than the other.
One of them is just better written than anything else in the film.
Yeah, one of them has like an actual narrative.
Yeah, so cutting it is kind of junk. But the main arc and the main point of the film is, of course, Shia LaBeouf, who is a high school student. Sam Witwicky, who is named after an established character in Transformers. I found that out.
Oh, so there is a Sam Witwicky.
As I understand it,
I didn't know that.
There's a character in the cartoon. I think it's the main human character. His name is Spike Witwicky.
Ah, okay.
I think so. Don't quote me on that. I haven't seen the cartoon. I saw a video that just incidentally brought that up.
I've only ever seen the Transformers, the movie, and the first four Michael Bay ones.
I've been thinking about watching that 86 one because I do.
Oh, I love the Transformers, the movie.
I do like the designs and stuff of the characters because I always read about it as like a sort of like, it's interesting, some of the stuff they do, because it is sort of like superheroes boiled down to their purest attributes of like just dudes with superpowers caught in a forever war.
Yeah.
And they, characterize
it's also
them in interesting ways.
It's still a very gorgeous movie to look at as well.
Yeah.
Like paired with its like weird new wave soundtrack, it is a really like fun experience.
It's weirdly like important to the canon of film because it's Orson Welles' final performance.
Yeah. Actually, I believe it's his penultimate performance. I think he did like one more voiceover role after Transformers.
Interesting.
I'll have to look that up.
So Sam Witwicky, played by Shia LaBeouf, who at that time I don't think had really done a whole lot.
No, he had Even Stevens and Holes. His career was on the up and up. This was like his first sort of like post Disney movie. No, actually, no, I think Disturbia came out just before Transformers.
Yes, it did.
So this was around the time he was like just becoming like a big star.
So that's what I was asking, because you're a bit younger than I am. And I was curious if you even knew about like Even Stevens.
Yeah, Even Stevens was on syndication when I was growing up. We watched it a lot.
Because that's what
school.
Because that's what I knew him from, was a TV show on Disney called Even Stevens, where he was like a Bart Simpson like prankster type.
Yeah. There was a movie called True Confessions, which was a Disney movie where he plays like a mentally disabled child.
I used to
watch that a lot as a kid.
I think like I want to say the sister in that movie is also his sister in Even Stevens.
I think it is them. Yeah.
It makes it seem like, oh yeah, Even Stevens, from the perspective of Shia LaBeouf, it's like a goofy comedy, but from the perspective of the sister, she has a mentally ill brother she has to take care of all the time.
Yeah. Or like it's like Even Stevens got brain damage, like in between seasons.
And then of course Shia LaBeouf is in Holes, which is a classic film.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's a good movie.
I think the book is better, but I do like the film a lot. The film is a good like kids western.
In middle school, I did a book report on Holes.
Yeah, we did that. That's how I saw the movie and watched the book.
Right.
That's how I saw the movie and read the book.
I did not read the book.
The book is superior in my opinion. I really do like the book.
It might be something worth checking out then. But he was in a surprising. I'm looking at it. He was surprisingly in a fair amount of stuff. He was in Constantine.
He was a taxi driver in Constantine. Yeah, that was like his first like adult role.
Yeah, he was in Disturbia. He's a voice actor in Surf's Up. Immediately after Transformers, he's in Indiana Jones 4.
He did that Eagle Eye movie where like he's being spied on by the government.
That one I remember because Eagle Eye had like a fantastic trailer of he's like
broke,
it did. And he goes to his
ATM. The ATM just pulls out money for him.
Yeah, it jumps from like $8 to like $8 million, and then it's like something's going on, and it's like, what an interesting hook. And I have absolutely no idea if that movie's good.
Yeah, I heard it was alright. It's a decent like.
I saw it. But I saw it when I was a kid, so I don't know if, like, I legitimately don't know.
That's one of the things I saw, like, recently on, like a random, like, I'll stick anything on Netflix, like, night.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Disturbia, I think, is, like, a genuinely, like, great movie, though.
Maybe. I mean, it's just a remake of a fucking, Hitchcock film.
Rear Window, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good job of modernizing it. There are two remakes of Rear Window that I know of. There's the one from 1998 with Christopher Reeve, which was the first movie he did after the accident, and then there's Disturbia. I think they're both pretty solid reinterpretations.
Maybe, like, on paper, the idea of he's under house arrest, it's kind of interesting, but I also think having him not be physically hurt and thus not be completely powerless takes a big chunk away from that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not like it replaced it or anything. I don't know. I haven't seen.
That's why the Christopher Reeve one's really interesting, because he is like completely fucking powered to do anything because he is paralyzed, whereas like Jimmy Stewart just has like a broken leg,
right?
Which you can get around on a crutch.
I'll be honest with you. I've not seen Rear Window. The only reason I know what happens in Rear Window is because of The Simpsons.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Anyway. So Shia LaBeouf is in this movie, and I had a lot of shit written out about Shia LaBeouf and how, like, he was unfairly treated by, like, film nerds in the late 2000s. And how, like, he was he was at the center of a lot of, like, mediocre, reinventions of classic franchises.
Yeah.
But he was not the reason they were mediocre, because he's in this.
No, not at all. It's just like
Skull.
Rage Critics. Rage Critics were really big at the time, like 2008, 2009.
I described...
So, like, he was getting, like, a lot of flack from people who were just annoyed, like, things they grew up with were, like, being, like, tarnished with these, like, young actors.
I described him to my friend as the film version of Justin Bieber for a while.
I wouldn't call him that.
Maybe not that
He's been
bad.
He's been in some like genuine dramatic roles that I like him in a lot.
Well, I meant
really
more like that's how people
Nymphomaniac.
saw him.
Yeah, but I think he's really good in like Nymphomaniac, and Funny Boy was really fucking good.
Maybe, but I gotta say, I think he's fucking awful in this.
Oh, he's awful. Sam Witwicky is one of the worst fucking characters in the history.
He is so like dour and sad, but he's constantly supposed to be making jokes. But I don't think...
He has no personality.
I
he
don't
has one
think...
motivation throughout his entire... throughout all three movies, and that is... I must fuck the chick who is assisting me.
But, like, that's more complex than the problems that are present with him. Where, like... He's just like, he is making jokes. He's in comedic situations constantly, but he just has dull surprise on his face.
He feels desperate. Everything about his character feels desperate. Like, his whole point in the first movie is he's trying to sell his great-great-grandfather's, like, exploration gear.
Right, and it's like, yeah, like...
And, like, it doesn't give you, like, any reason as to why he's doing that, he just wants to.
Well, he's doing it to try to make money so he can sell his fucking... so he can get a car. But he's like... Yeah, so my grandfather's...
the car anyway, so like...
Yeah, but like he has the exact same facial expression the entire time. He is clearly supposed to be like, he's supposed to be like a, Zach Morris type character.
Remind me who Zach Morris is?
He's the dude from, Saved by the Bell. Where
I never watched. That's a little bit before my time.
He's supposed to be kind of like a shuckster. Like he's like constantly trying to sell you, and he's like a used car salesman as a kid.
Well, wasn't there a guy in Saved by the Bell who kind of looked like Shia LaBeouf?
Yes, Dustin Diamond was his name.
Yeah, Dustin Diamond. Yeah.
But that's the kind of character Shia LaBeouf is playing. But like Zach Morris is constantly grinning really wide at people, and he's always trying to sound charismatic. And he's a sleazebag, right? Like he's like a
he has like a character.
He's like Saul Goodman, but like that's the joke. That's what Shia LaBeouf is supposed to be, and Shia LaBeouf is just standing there, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Awful. He never emote. He never has like it's bad. He's really bad.
He has very little motivation throughout the entire movie. Besides his own like gain, it's his only motivation. It's to better himself.
So we open on him. He's doing a class report about how his great-great-grandfather was like an explorer in the Arctic Circle.
Okay, so the weird thing about this is, so the same day I watched Transformers, earlier in the day I'd watched Wild at Heart, the Nick Cage, David Lynch movie.
Right.
The dude who plays Sam Wickie's great-great-grandfather is in Wild at Heart as like a big-time gangster.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, it's a weird coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's so many fucking characters. There's so many fucking
there
characters
are so many,
in this movie.
Especially as they go on, where like everybody is just in these movies.
Yeah. His grandfather was in the Arctic Circle. Something happened to him. He went fucking crazy. And he's like, I'm selling all my grandfather's junk on eBay if you want to buy it. Blah, blah, blah. His dad said if he got an A on his report, he'd buy him a car. His teacher fucking, like, gives him an A, even though he doesn't deserve it. Whatever. Shia LaBeouf... I
don't know why.
That was fine. His teacher's like, you know
that teacher did not look like he was going to go easy on him.
Whatever. You're a teacher, you know how important shit is, a car is when you're in fucking high school.
Yeah.
So, Sam Witwicky had to get together $2,000 and he had to get, like, AIDS on his shit. His dad will pay for half of his car, and they pull up to the Porsche dealership, and he starts freaking out. This is actually a funny
scene.
Yeah, I have it actually written in my notes that this joke actually worked pretty well. Where they're pulling up and he's freaking out. It works because it's the only time Shia LaBeouf, like, has a smile on in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's freaking out. He's like, Dad, you're not buying me a Porsche. And he's like, yeah, you're right, I'm not, you fucking moron. It's a good...
It's like the one good joke in the entire movie.
It's a good dad joke.
Yeah.
So then they pull into, like, this shitty, like, used car lot where it's all junker cars and all rusted out.
Yeah, run by fucking walking stereotype Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac, America's... I don't know, fucking Godfather? I didn't know what to call him. I guess if fucking...
Uncle? He feels like an uncle, like a happy uncle.
Yeah, he feels like an uncle who's, like, really big into being, like, a bachelor. If Bill Cosby is America's dad, Bernie Mac was America's uncle.
I don't think Bernie Mac, like, did anything to tarnish his reputation.
No.
He didn't become
he did.
uncle. He just remained uncle.
He did Transformers.
Yeah.
So that's not great.
And, like, what is it with, like, these movies and having, like, overtly racist, like, black characters?
I don't know. It's weird where, like, Michael Bay clearly is... It's odd where, like, Michael Bay has a lot of black actors in his films.
Yeah.
Way more than most other, like, big-name directors do.
Unless they're, like, the central characters, they all feel like stereotypes.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's just a thing where he just doesn't see it. Or if it's a thing...
He just doesn't know how to write, like... he comes across like he doesn't know how to write ethnicities.
Maybe, but I think people like Bad Boys a whole lot.
Yeah, I love the Bad Boys movies.
So maybe it's
but I feel like those characters didn't have to be black. He's not writing like black characters, but like Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are injecting their own sort of like ethnic portrayal into those roles.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if it really is just a thing of like he just exaggerates character traits so much that it comes across as like low-key racist.
Yeah.
Bernie Mac calls his mother Mammy in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. How do you not see that?
He also threatens to bust her head open with a rock, which is really funny.
Classic Bernie.
So they go to this shitty dealership to get him a car. They have $4,000, and they're getting like a piece of shit junker. I know it's 2,000.
You can get a pretty good car for $4,000.
You can get a car for like. You can get a pretty good car for like $1,300. I know it's 2007, but like $4,000 should be able to get you. He might have been able to get an actual Porsche for $4,000.
Yeah, $4,000. I mean, yeah. You have to finance it, but you know, you could easily get like a decent rod beforehand.
So there's an old beat up Camaro, and he wants to buy it, but it's $5,000. It's just too expensive. And then the Camaro, you know, plays a noise, and all the windows shatter. And Bernie Mac's like, "Okay, I'll give it to you for $4,000." Which is a bit of a weird scene.
Suspicious about the Camaro.
Something weird about this. It's yellow. It has a air freshener of a bee with the word biatch written underneath it.
Yeah, I don't know why that is there. Why would fucking Bumblebee have a fucking air freshener?
You would assume when they transform, it would crush anything inside, but I guess not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, my thought was like they like assimilate what they scan, but like they can only like reproduce the metal and the leather. I don't think he could like assimilate like peripherals and shit. Right. So, like anything you add to the car, like an air freshener. I don't think like it would have assimilated that. So I have no idea why that is just in the car.
I've always waited to see, like, do they ever address what happens if you're inside the car when it transforms? I guess the answer is pretty obvious, but I feel like...
It's like one of those workplace safety videos.
Yeah. It feels like it would be such an obvious thing of, like, why hasn't Robot Chicken just, like, crushed a dog inside Optimus Prime or something?
Yeah, also, did you notice how Bumblebee parks himself next to Volkswagen Beetle at the dealership.
That's what he used to be. That's what he used to be in the cartoons. It's cute.
That's what he is again now. That's what he is again now in the Bumblebee movie.
Right. Hold on, I gotta piss really bad.
Okay, it's fine. Give me some. I can.
You know, he gets his fucking car home. He and his friend take it out, and they see the girl.
Yeah.
They see
the objective of the movie, the trophy.
What is, I guess, effectively our dutagonist, which is Megan Fox.
Michaela.
Who is playing the character of Michaela, which despite...
Michaela Barnes, what a fucking weird name.
Which,
There's like Eastern European name and then just Barnes, like a traditional fucking like suburbanite name.
Which, despite like having seen these movies multiple times, and like 10 years of discourse built around this film, this is the first time I've ever heard her name. I got to the end of I watched this with a couple of friends, and like 2/3 of the way through the film she says, "Hi, I'm Michaela," and all three of us realized we didn't know her name until that moment.
No, she's just been Megan Fox.
She's been Fox. She was just always like Megan Fox.
The butt of every joke, like in 2007. Which, I don't know why. I mean, she's not, like, amazing, but, like, she doesn't feel like... She can actually emote, is what I'm saying. She actually does come across, like, in the right role. She can give a good performance. Like, I love Jennifer's Body, and, like, recent, like, snow-based horror movie she did was pretty good. Like, in this movie, she's written with just such spite. I really don't know why.
She's got, like... Hold on, I think I'm getting, like, I think I fucked up my... Did I mess up the order of my notes? No, I didn't. Okay. Sorry, I have the movie playing on my other screen. I have it muted just to sort of refresh my mind as I go through it. I have my notes, and I was looking at it, and I was like, did I fuck up the order of my notes? But no. So he fucking gets his car home, and then he wakes up in the middle of the night, and his car is driving away. Sam is. And he gets...
didn't talk about how... We skipped over Spooks. We didn't talk about how fucking Bumblebee is trying to, like, deliberately make Shia LaBeouf horny.
Yeah, it's weird, where he's playing, like, wingman to him. And, like...
Yeah, wingman, drive by the cars.
Yeah. Where he's, like, trying to help him out, which, like... It is odd that he has any, like...
Like, the overt sexuality of all of these movies is just so, like, distracting. Yeah. Especially since they are all marketed towards children.
I guess that's Bumblebee's personality? Like, he's supposed to be, like, the young hotshot of the group.
Like, he's a young hotshot, but I never took him for, like... I never, like, looked at him as being, like, a horny teenager. In the Bumblebee movie, he's just a kid.
I I could see a personality of Bumblebee where he's like a Human Torch style, like he's like oh okay, yeah, I'll help you out, kid. Like I could see that.
Yeah, definitely like a cocky, happy chappy, but never like some like weird pest.
Yeah, it's not a bad characterization.
He's a weird
for
pest
him.
in the Michael Bay movies.
Yeah, but the problem is none of the Autobots have very good characterization.
No, most of them are stereotypes.
But they also don't. It's also a thing where like none of the characters do. They're all kind of written the same, so like they don't really do much to establish Bumblebee in terms of like motivation or traits or what he's supposed to be.
Which is why I really like the Bumblebee movies, because it establishes that personality rather than just like kind of like awkwardly dump it on you by having him trying to hit on Michaela.
Yeah. Yeah, now that you're saying it, it really is like a fucking... What's it called? Kirby the Love Bug?
Herbie
the Love Bug. There's like just full on... Every Bumblebee scene feels like it's from that.
Yeah, and like the Bumblebee movie was like a direct homage to the classic Herbie movies.
Right.
So it makes sense, but like in this movie again, it just feels out of place.
It does feel
especially because Michael Bay's just writing it like a fucking sex comedy.
Yeah. So that's all weird.
The car trying to help him get laid. It's so out of place.
Yeah. So it's it's middle of the night. The car rides off.
Michael Bay is writing it. I shouldn't say that because Michael Bay didn't write any of these movies.
Right.
The first one was written by Alex Kurtzman, who's the guy who runs Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then the
I
rest
know that
Aaron
name.
Kruger and 5 other guys.
It's just fucking weird, dude. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Who gets so big in Hollywood?
So Alex Kurtzman is writing it like a fucking sex comedy, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Especially with Michael Bay's direction. Like, paired together, Alex Kurtzman and Michael Bay is like a nightmare team. This was before Star Trek, thankfully, but like if they worked together now, they would quite possibly make one of the worst fucking Hollywood blockbusters ever made.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where like it's so weird, but like on some level, I just don't give a shit. Like I just want the Transformers are characters.
Yeah, I don't care about this. I don't care about this fucking horny, balding teenager.
There's enough characterization to the Autobots and the Decepticons to fill the movie, and I remember liking Bumblebee, but that kind of is true for that too. Where like, do I really care? All things considered, wouldn't on some level I would rather just watch Optimus Prime and Megatron punch each other for an hour.
Yeah, I mean I like Bumblebee because we talked about the Bumblebee movie, right? The 2018 one.
Yeah.
I like that a lot because I like how it was like basically a road movie, and I feel like for a road movie you need human characters.
It's a charming little movie, it on some level it's like important to be like, no, it's a soft. We're gonna reconfigure everything here. But on some level, like I almost wish it wasn't. I almost wish it was just the opening of that movie where they're all on Cybertron fighting.
Yeah.
Like that's a more interesting movie than I think what we actually got.
Did you ever play the Cybertron video games?
I played the first one when it came out.
Yeah, I only played the first one. Apparently the second one is the one everybody raves about, and then the third one is like a massive piece of shit.
I think it's the third one is like very clearly tying into Age of Extinction.
Age of Extinction, yeah.
Yeah, I remember they're fine. They're third-person shooters.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know what else I would want out of a Transformers game, per se.
But I've talked about how, like, surprisingly good the first two Transformers tie-in video games are for the movies.
Yeah.
Because they're these like really weird and really detailed open world games, and I've mentioned they feel a lot like Saints Row.
Right. I could see that. Well, it's the type of thing where like someone cared.
Yeah, someone cared in that development team. They had like an idea they wanted to push forward.
It's like,
and like it materialized in a way that is enjoyable.
Where like it's the same weird thing happened to the Spider-Man movie games.
Yeah. It was like the first one was like kind of like standard third-person beat 'em up. Nothing to write home about. And then Spider-Man 2, like there was like an actual vision there to separate it from the movie and not just be another tie-in game.
Yeah. Quickly.
And then Spider-Man 3, the game. Sorry if I can just go on with this.
No, go ahead.
Spider-Man 3, the game, tried to just completely disassociate itself from the source material altogether. It had nothing to do with the Spider-Man 3 movie.
I'm double checking some stuff here real fast. I guess it wasn't done.
So it definitely, like, the Transformers games came from that era of time video games where, like, people cared.
Yeah, so
and then,
again,
like, just after that period, they immediately dropped off because they were just, like, quick cash grabs.
So that was done, that game was done by Traveler's Tales, who's a real developer who has made
Yeah,
real
they're the
video
Lego
games.
guys.
They do most of the Lego stuff. They did Sonic 3D Blast. They did that old Toy Story game on the SNES.
They did, yeah, they did, what's it called? Wrath of Cortex.
Yeah, they did some of the Crash Bandicoot games.
Yeah.
So there's like a talent behind that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, Bumblebee drives off. He drives off to make contact, to seemingly like send a signal to the Autobots to come to Earth. But like he's driving at like 10 miles under the speed limit because Sam is able to keep up with him on like his neighbor's bike.
Yeah, somehow. I don't know why he doesn't like veer off and then like make sure nobody's following him.
Yeah, and then that's the first time we see like a proper Transformer. I guess we
Unless
see the one
he
at the
wanted
start.
Sam to follow him.
Right.
Which was my thinking.
But they show like, hey, it's Bumblebee, and it's the first time we see him, and it kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's weirdly
I don't like
understated.
Bumblebee's design in this movie. I think he looks too compact.
He's weird. I don't like his face. He looks like what was it called? It was a video game. He looks like the character from Metal Arms, which is like an old Ratchet and Clank style game on the PS2.
I've never played Metal Arms. I know of it. I've just never played it.
Like, he looks like that character, like, blown up. But, like, I don't like the way his face looks. It's like, it's not a good design. I also have a problem with, like... Well, I'll talk about it when we get there.
Oh, I totally see that now. I've googled it. Yeah, he does look like that. He looks more like this in the Bumblebee movie, though.
Probably, and I guess that, yeah.
See it.
Where, like,
But in the Bumblebee movie, it makes sense because he is still that Volkswagen Beetle.
Right.
So, of course, he has, like, a more rounded design. Whereas in this, he looks like he's just been squashed, and it's really weird.
Yeah. I think it's also a thing where, like, at one point in the movie, he has, like a faceplate that he puts on. Bumblebee does. Where he, like, lowers it. And he looks a million times cooler with it. With the faceplate on. He actually looks kind of cool. And I just remember thinking, even as a kid, I was like, why don't they just have him look like that all the time?
Like, maybe it's too much to render. It takes up too much resources.
But it seems like it would be less to render, and they were just like, well, no, because that's not lifelike. It's not as impressive, even if it looks better, right? He finds his fucking whatever. I think he gets in contact with. Then he runs away. Or there's like a weird scene. I'm trying to remember what that scene is. It's garbage, is what it is. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, you got the video up. You can just like.
Yeah, I'm actually scrubbing through it real fast because we had actually passed it. Because we've been talking so much, and I had to go back. I'm also like. The also thing here is that a lot of my notes, because I was writing them while I watched the movie, a lot of them are about the hackers or the soldiers. But we've kind of said it. We kind of said everything that happens in their stories because there isn't a whole lot there.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. They're just like filler. They do feel just like filler.
So now I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's the next important thing that happens here? Oh, I do have one thing to say. There's the scorpion scene happens around this point in the film. Yeah. Where they're in the village with the fighters and everything. We already talked about this, but there's a joke there where a dude's trying to get into contact with the Pentagon. And there's like an Indian dude who's like...
the racist fucking not tech support, but like call center guy.
Yeah, who's like bored and not paying attention, and it's like, oh, okay, I see that. And like, I saw that, and I'm like, this feels like a Marvel joke, and if it was in a Marvel movie, people would never shut up about it. Like, it would be a
No,
thing that, like,
say...
dudes on Twitter would, like, point to this as the death of cinema for, like, 10 years.
Yeah.
And this is, like, before the MCU is anywhere near ever present.
That dude felt like a budget as is Ansari.
Maybe.
The tech support guy.
It's all just not, like, it just goes to show that, like, no, movies were always like this. Marvel didn't do anything different. It's just, now it's all under one brand.
Yeah, well, I think Iron Man, the original Iron Man, as decent as that movie is, it still suffers from a lot of the same like fallings as the Transformers movie.
Right.
It's just that era of big budget blockbusters, that post 9/11 era. They're both Paramount as well, because the MCU was Paramount owned until the Avengers. That's when Disney took over.
Yeah, like that was crazy. It was a huge thing. Like it was very. I remember. When fucking...
I think Transformers and Iron Man were in development at the exact same time.
Yeah, they must have been. At least at some point. And like, yeah, it was a huge deal where
maybe
like,
Iron Man entered production as Transformers was like released.
Yeah. It was like 2011, Disney bought Marvel, and it was like a huge thing. And we were all like, what is this gonna do? What is this gonna mean? And now the notion that Marvel and Disney are separate is absurd.
Yeah. It's like, you know, my mum, she'll think like, you know, oh, like the X-Men movies are tied into the Iron Man movies when they're not. Like, they're trying to retroactively do that, but yeah.
I was in a school paper in high school, and I saw it's just a weird moment that stuck out in my mind where one of the dudes was like, he was another one of the writers, and he was like, oh, we all had to like have a news thing that we brought up in the morning. It could have been entertainment or real news or whatever. And a lot of dudes just did movie shit because, you know, it was easy. And the dude was like, oh yeah, they announced a Deadpool movie, and that Deadpool movie was successful, so it's most likely, or they were announcing a Deadpool movie at the time. They're like, oh, there's going to be a Deadpool movie, and they'll probably bring him into the Avengers. And then I, fucking pissant that I was like, actually, they're owned by different companies.
That would have been me. I would have made the exact same, like, I would have made it the same point.
And I just remember, this dude looked like, if we were in, like, a fucking, like, comedy, he would have been, like, not a jock, but he would have been, like, the cool, handsome boy. He was like he looked like the main character in High School Musical. And I remember, and I remember after saying that, he was like, oh. And he just sort of looked down, and I could tell that he was really fucking angry that I, like, rained on his parade. And afterwards, I felt kind of bad about it, where I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
I mean, he's having no laugh now, because they're trying to, like, retroactively introduce all that stuff to the MCU.
Right. Fuck, alright. We've already talked about it, but I have, like, 6 lines here that I have to just repeat. Verbatim almost, where like when they're like fighting when the soldiers are fighting the fucking desert scorpion, one of them's like, bring the rain, and it's like, yeah, they're gonna fucking like launch missiles at it and shit.
Yeah, it's Predator shit.
It's so fucking stupid. And then there's like the hacker storyline is legitimately the worst thing in the movie.
It is. It goes nowhere. It has no purpose being in the movie. It is literally there just to stroke the ego of the NSA.
I just wrote out...
they were probably, like, partially funding this movie.
Yeah, I just wrote out some of the lines verbatim. I already said they hacked your firewall in 10 seconds. The fucking lady, who does not look anything like a fucking computer hacker, says that, the only thing...
we haven't got to that bit, but, like, for me, like, the most awkward line of dialogue in this movie is when, like, Anthony Anderson are trying to explain, like, oh, they leave the donuts out, and, like, if you eat them, that means you're innocent, or some shit like that.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Like, it's a line, and it's a line of thinking that makes absolutely no sense.
There's a scene...
The joke is just supposed to be he's fat.
Yeah, there's a scene later on in the movie where Super Hacker and NASA Lady get, like, taken in to be interrogated, and they leave a plate of donuts out, And Super Hacker eats the donuts, and he's like, see, that's why I ate the donuts, because if you don't eat the donuts, it means you're guilty. But also, and he's like, I ate every donut on the plate. But also, he didn't. There's like 3 donuts still on the plate.
Yeah, there's like three bites there. He fucking like tossed them. He was.
There's like there's like a whole.
He wanted the jelly filled like rainbow sprinkle donut.
There's like a whole fucking donut still there. So like the joke doesn't even work because he didn't eat them all.
No.
She's like, at one point the fucking lady tells like a fucking U.S. secretary like, the only thing that could hack your firewall like that is a DNA-based computer. Which, what the fuck does that mean?
What the fuck is a DNA-based computer? What,
how could you discern that? Like, it's ridiculous.
Does she mean like a bioorganism?
Like, I mean, yeah, that's what she's getting at, is only like an intelligent life form could do this. But also, like, that's stupid.
Like, I'm pretty sure, like, someone with the right know-how in, like, Serbia could, like, probably hack into that.
Yes. At one point, she tells, like, the same U.S. secretary, she's like, there's only one hacker in the world who can break this code. And that's our transition into the fucking fat guy who lives with his grandma.
Yeah. No, I like Anthony Anderson. I think he is a pretty funny guy.
He's fine. I've seen him in stuff. He's good. He's
in the movie
good.
He's in the movie Exit Wounds with Steven Seagal, and that's like Steven Seagal's like last good movie. Yeah. And like he and Tom Arnold are the comic relief, and they have like a really good like dynamic.
Fuck. Okay, so the next big plot point is Bumblebee goes
back.
Like
all the people of color in this movie are just walking stereotypes.
Yeah.
And that's like the big problem.
The next big plot point is Bumblebee goes back to the house, and now Sam Witwicky is terrified of it. Oh, I skipped over that at some point Sam like gets picked up by the police for like trespassing when he's following Bumblebee, and then the detective that like he's talking to is absurdly hostile.
Well, you know, America, I suppose. But
I guess, but he's like
publicly commentated on.
Well, I mean that shit was always commentated on if you were paying attention to it.
Yeah, but this is before it was like in like major Hollywood movies. Like this is still around the time where like cop movies were like big.
Right. Yeah, like after.
It's just weird having that scene in this movie, considering everything else it represents.
Right. There's a fucking Jesus. It was all over the place. I just remember the detective being like weird, in like an odd way. Like a comically hostile detective. I wrote it down. I figured I'd bring it up. So the next big plot point is Bumblebee comes back to the house, and now Sam's freaking out because he thinks his car is possessed, and he's there's a weird shot of him like riding a bike on the sidewalk, and his car, like Bumblebee is following him, and it's so weird because Bumblebee has to be moving at like 8 miles an hour.
Towing himself.
It's such an odd shot, but there's also a part of it where it's like, why did he come back? Why is he here? Oh, I guess.
He likes
I guess actually they do establish that the Autobots know that Sam Witwicky has the whatever shit, and they're trying to get him. So I guess that makes sense.
He has the MacGuffin. He's got the big MacGuffin. He's got that in his back pocket.
Yeah. But the big important thing here is that while Sam is running from him, he encounters a cop car, which is actually, you know, the big evil Transformer. So the big, it has like something written on the side, like it's sort of like to protect and serve. It's like something menacing. It's
I
the type.
What it was.
Yeah, it's a cop car, and it's actually a Decepticon. However, this car, as I understand it, this car is actually kind of infamous among the fan community. Like people really like it because it's covered in like stupid little in-jokes. Some of them they linger on, like where a normal cop car says to protect and serve, they wrote what did they write here? To punish and enslave.
Yeah, that's kind of cute.
Where there's supposed to be like a policeman's shield on the side, there's a Decepticon logo.
Yeah, that's cute. I like that.
Yeah, no, I liked it. It's really it's very corny in a very like fun way.
It's cool. It's like a kids movie kind of thing. It works. It works for Transformers, I think.
No, yeah, I liked it.
This is like a
it was
brand.
Fun.
Yeah.
There's a scene where like Megan Fox's character is on a Vespa, and she sees Sam, Shia LaBeouf, is, like, riding, and he's, like, yelling for help, and she rides in to, like, I guess to help him, and he, like, lariats her. He does, like, a wrestling move on her and knocks her off her fucking, like, bike. And it's so, like, aggressive and... It's so fucking weird. And I get he's, like, trying to stop her from running into the thing. But the thing is, like, far behind him.
Just push her off. She's on the Vespa for crying out loud.
He could have, like, jumped onto the bike and told her to run or something like that. It's such a violent, like, visceral action he takes against her.
It's subconscious, you know. It's what he wants to do with her in bed.
Oh, yeah. Also, it's not important. But Sam Witwicky Sam Witwicky is wearing a Strokes t-shirt the entire movie.
Yeah, that's weird, because like, that's like the only year where the Strokes were like big. That's such a 2007 thing. It kind of does dress like a Scott Pilgrim character. Where he's just wearing like shirts of stuff that was popular the year that came out.
Right. Which kind of, like, weirdly dates the film. I mean, it dates it more than the fact that, like, this was right before iPhones. So there's, like, a weird plot point about him having a Nokia phone.
Yeah. Those, like, cool, like, late-stage Nokia phones that have, like, actual web browsers on them.
Yeah. I just wrote here Nickelback Chase. I don't think it is Nickelback, but I like that was my way of making fun of the music in this chase scene, where like Bumblebee comes and he saves them, and they take him to the fucking whatever, and they're like driving away, and then they seemingly drive for hours because it's daylight when this
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, where this fight starts, and then when it actually ends, it is now like when the fight begins, the actual proper fight, it is now fucking night.
Yeah.
Fuck. Sorry. I'm scrubbing through this timeline because I wanted to see if the stupid cop car has anything else written on it. I think it says 911, but it says 911 emergency, but I think it said something else.
Like 666.
It says 911 emergency 911 response now, so it is a normal graphic. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
All right. Anyway. Jesus.
So we didn't talk about how like throughout the whole movie, like the Decepticons are referring to him by his fucking eBay handle.
Yeah, they keep calling him Ladiesman217, and when Barricade, who is the cop car one, does it. It legitimately sounds like it's something that a YouTuber dubbed over him.
It does. It's stupid. It's so out of place.
It's so dumb. And it's like, it's just the way it's performed is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they keep doing it.
They do. They keep doing it. All the Decepticons do that. Well, other than... No, the Decepticons are the ones who refer to him by that, but the Autobots know he's Sam.
They know he's Sam, like, after he introduces himself.
It's so weird hearing it come from the villains. Like, I know it's supposed to, like, sort of present them as being, like, kind of, like, stupid. And, like,
it's supposed to be goofy, that, like, they don't know how silly
it's supposed to, like,
sounds.
It's supposed to, like, depower the villains for the kids.
There's also, again, like, the fact that the movie never slows down kind of, like, undercuts the threat of the villains.
Oh, by, like, 50 minutes into the movie, I was, like, starting to feel, like, lose its steam. I was starting to, like, get disinterested, like, 50 minutes into it.
Yeah, and, like, I'm watching it now, and, like, oh, yeah, this Bumblebee chase is kind of well shot. It's kind of interesting, but I just remembered the first time I watched it, I was, like, reaching the edge of, like, my give a shit. Because I think at this point... I was like, oh, this isn't just like a rough around the edges movie. This is a bad movie.
Yeah. It's a bad movie that has good moments that all relies solely on visuals.
But I'm like thinking about it, and like when Barricade confronts Sam, if it was a slower scene that kind of lingered on Barricade, and kind of showed that Barricade was like sinister, and he was.
Yeah, we kind of like built up his like reveal, and like we had some like body language which like sort of like helped characterize his.
It's a very prominent shot in that sequence where he has his hand is a tire and it's running and he slams it onto the car. It would have been way more effective if like he like slowly revved up his tire while he was talking.
I feel the movie should have spent more time with him as like the cop car stalking Sam.
Yeah, that could have been really interesting.
That could have been interesting and like genuinely suspenseful.
It could have been interesting if like, oh, Sam sees a cop car and he's going for it, or like every time Sam thinks Bumblebee is coming after him, you see Barricade in the background.
Yeah.
Or it could have been like, oh, he sees a cop car and thinks it's safe.
Like a
and,
Terminator 1 chase or something.
Or he like it like the scene in Terminator 2 where like the T800 shows up and you're like, oh shit.
Like, you think he's like the bad guy.
Yeah, and then he yells duck and like fires at the other one.
Get down.
Yeah, like that could have been a cool. They could have done something like that. That could have been interesting.
Yeah, where he thinks like the cop car's there. It's like okay, he's following him to like protect him from like the weird Bumblebee thing that's following him.
Yeah, like you could have done a billion
something interesting with
that.
Yeah.
For the fight between Barricade and Bumblebee, I just have written here spinning metal and shaky cam.
Yeah.
It's
also
just...
one thing I need to say about Bumblebee is that I don't like how his radio voice works in this movie.
Anything in particular about it?
Like, well, because in the Bumblebee movie, it's like edited up to where he's saying like actual sentences, like a weird sort of like robot voice, and I think that works better. Whereas in this, he's just playing random sound bits that like correlate with like what's being asked of him. And I think it's really awkward and vague.
I think it works. Reason. I think it works sometimes, and I think it's debatably more realistic that way.
I prefer, and I'm more used to like the cut up sort of like sentences that he says in like the cartoon and the 2017 movie.
Yeah, but there's also just like he plays sound clips that don't make any sense to be broadcast on a radio.
Yeah, exactly. Most of it sounds like TV clips.
Yeah,
you could argue he's like tapping into different signals. Like he has like the strength for that.
Like at one point he plays a sound clip from Star Trek. I'm like, how is he like? Why?
Like you could like argue like yeah he can like because of like his signal strength he could tap into like TV signals and shit.
I guess
and,
that works. Like he's a super advanced robot. That makes enough sense.
He can do what you want. Yeah,
that's fine. It's still like a weird thing.
It's there for the sake of a pop culture reference.
Well, I know in a couple different times throughout the movies they do it, but he plays music. And that makes way more sense. Like, he should do that.
That's the whole point in the Bumblebee movies, that he'll play, like, appropriate songs to what's going on in the scene.
Right. Like,
that's more fun.
That's way more fun. It's way more interesting. It makes more sense. It's just a weird thing.
They managed to, like, they do, like, a really good job at shoehorning the touch into Bumblebee. There's, like, a really good, like, important scene where he plays that.
Right.
You know, the touch, that's the main song.
You're right, yeah, because
Transformers the movie.
That first Transformers movie has a lot of weird music choices in it. There's like a
it does. There's like a fucking Dare to Be Stupid.
Yeah, it's got like I think that might have been written for that movie.
Yeah, it was. That and the touch were written for the movie. They were double A side. They were released on the same single.
Yeah, it has an original fucking Weird Al track in it. What an odd choice.
Well, that's like my favorite Weird Al song as well.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Sorry to go on like a tangent, but like, so the dude from Devo, that song is a spoof. That song is a parody of Devo, and Mark Mothersbaugh, who's the main guy from Devo, listened to it and said, "We're really annoyed we didn't make this song ourselves."
Yeah, it's like I watched an interview with him about it, and he looks destitute. Where he's like, I spent my entire life making and cutting out this unique niche for me and my guys, and without even trying, fucking Weird Al Yankovic made a better song than we've ever made.
Yeah,
in our style, and how cheated he felt.
Yeah,
it's really funny. I was even gonna say like that, like that's like a glimpse into another universe where Weird Al does not do parodies, but like original like comedy shit.
Yeah, Weird Al just does like Devo shit where he makes like weird, like esoteric, experimental, like new wave stuff.
Which he does do sometimes.
Yeah, he does. Like there are a few like original songs he's done that aren't really like parodies of like anything.
A lot of
His pastiches are like that.
Yeah. A lot of his style parody stuff kind of feels like that.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Transformers.
Great. There's a fucking Nokia bot. There's multiple Nokia bots, I think. Where,
Yeah, because like Nokia were like dominating the fucking phone market at this point.
Yeah, where like
I remember everybody had a Nokia in 2007.
A robot, a fucked up transformer mimics Sam's cell phone so it can like spy on him.
Which is pretty cool. I thought that was a good. I thought that was like a cool.
It's sure, like on paper, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Especially the small ones, they could do that feasibly. That makes sense.
You're right. I'm happy we're at this point because this is like this is I think maybe my hottest take about this Transformers movie is they get to that point where Megan Fox talks shit about why Bumblebee looks like a shitty Camaro.
No, you reminded me.
And then, yeah, they have that scene where it kicks them out, and then it scans, like, the new, fresh, hot Camaro, and then transforms to look like that instead, and it's like, yeah, look at this sleek Camaro.
And then the fucking Kill Bill song plays because, you know, it's yellow and has, like,
yellow
a
and
black
black
down it, like
yeah.
the bride.
Yeah.
So that means Kill Bill, yellow and black, and it's just the pop culture references are so out of place in this movie.
Yeah, here's my nuclear hot take about that. The Camaro he transforms into looks like shit.
It does. I prefer the vintage Camaro.
The vintage one, like, there's a reason old Camaros have like there's a reason a Camaro is a classic American muscle car. It's got style. It looks interesting. Yeah. It's a cool, iconic look.
It's sleek. It's aerodynamic.
Yeah,
it has great mileage.
The fucking sports car that they have in this one looks like garbage. The one he transforms into looks awful.
Generic TV advertisement car.
Also, I don't know about this. I'd have to look this up. I don't think they bothered to make two designs for Bumblebee. So when he's fighting the cop Decepticon, he's using like there's still chunks of like the modern car in his design because they only made one of them.
I didn't notice that, but yeah.
I don't think there's more than one design.
That's something I feel like you have to look out for to notice, really.
It's just something I thought of after the fact, where I was like, he transforms, and like I don't think he looks quite like that. Anyway, so then the other Autobots come to Earth, and there's a scene of like them crashing to Earth and mimicking cars and shit. And something really stood out to me about this scene.
Can I just say, like, the reveal of the Optimus Prime truck in like that sort of like misty wide shot is pretty decent.
It's a good like shot, but all the Autobots look exactly the same until they transform into local cars.
They're just standard muscle cars. So
well, they just look like they're just you know big mechanical men, which
they ain't got no souls.
Doesn't that imply that the only reason Optimus Prime is bigger and like blue and red is like happenstance?
No, just because like he's the leader, so like he has the best design.
But like obviously that's the reason. But like Optimus Prime as a character seems like, oh, I'll just pick whatever vehicle. But doesn't that imply any of the Transformers could become a big rig and look like him?
Yeah.
One of them gets smaller. The fucking Jazz is like the smallest of the Transformers, but he looks like they all seem to be the same size and everything when they come to Earth.
Yeah, it's like weirdly inconsistent.
Is there a benefit? Is there a benefit to that? Do you think because he's more compact, do you think like he's heavier or something? I mean, no, the answer is obviously no.
I hate the justification as to how they learned English. We learned it from the internet. And the only reason they fucking said that was so they could get away with Jazz being a fucking walking stereotype.
I literally, the next thing I have written in my notes is just, what's cracking, little bitches.
Yeah, that is one of the worst fucking line reads in a movie.
Very telling that Jazz, the black Autobot, is the only one to die in the movie.
Yeah, I think Michael Bay or Alex Kurtzman realized how much they fucked up with that character and decided to dispose of them as quickly as possible, rather than rewrite it.
Oh my god, I'm seeing the scene again, and fucking when Jazz transforms, he's breakdancing. This is awful.
He is. He's breakdancing. Just throwing every stereotype you can. We've already got, like, you know, the mammy figure with fucking Bernie Mac. We got the fat black guy who likes his donuts. Now we just need our hip hop guy.
These fucking characters.
And it only gets worse from there. They only get more racist.
There's so many fucking I just hate the designs of the Transformers so much here.
It didn't really concern me, the designs. I'm not big on Transformers as a brand. I was never into it as a kid.
But I mean,
seeing these, I just thought they looked like generic robots, and it didn't do anything to upset me.
That's how I felt originally, but I've kind of looked more at Transformers stuff, and you look at old Optimus Prime, and that's a good design. That's
the old designs are very well articulated.
Like, that's a fantastic design, and I've seen modern versions of that, like, Optimus Prime design that are like, that's a cool design. I want to see that design do things. And then
I'll show you now, like, the new line of toys is absolutely atrocious. Just like, with how, like, cheap it looks.
Maybe, but I mean, like, I'm just thinking of, like, yeah, I've seen, like, the designs in Bumblebee, and I'm like, I'd like to see those designs do shit. I'd like to see them get in fights and jump around buildings and everything.
Yeah, and for sure. I think that's what everybody kind of wants.
And then I look at the designs in this one, and I can't stand it. Like, they look like garbage. And, like...
Well, they're supposed to look like modern cars.
Just fundamental problems.
They're just sleek and unimaginative.
Like, the best design decision they ever made for Optimus Prime is that he doesn't have a mouth. That was such a smart decision, because it makes him look way more, like, opaque and stoic.
I still think the cop car was definitely the best designed out of all of the robots in the movie.
Maybe. He has, like... You can still see a lot of, like, the cop car aspects of his character normally. And I don't know. Yeah. Like, the rest of them are just...
I like that, though.
Yeah, no. Like, that's cool. You should be able to tell what car they're supposed to be when they're robots.
Whereas, like, because all of them are just, like, black, sleek cars, they all just look like big robots when they transform.
Right.
And it's just a really generic, uninspired design. Like, yeah, none of the cars they transform into of them the original Camaro have character. I guess, like, the Optimus Prime truck does have some character to it, but at the same time, it's very obnoxious.
Does he ever do anything? Now that I'm thinking about it, does he ever do anything as the truck? Like, do they ever have a scene of him, like, barreling through a building?
He is just there as the truck, so you recognize him and know who he is.
Alright. Yeah, like, at least you get a chase scene with Bumblebee as the Camaro.
Yeah, you have the Camaro chase scene. That's pretty good. That's well choreographed and, like, performed.
I forgot there was like a flashback with, like, the dude, like, Sam's great grandfather or whatever in the ice finding Megatron.
Yeah, the Wild at Heart guy.
It's so weird. Like, I just forgot about it until I saw it again.
That guy must have been, like, super old when he did that movie, so I can't imagine that character, like, falling down a, like, ice shaft like that and surviving.
Right. And, like, getting coordinates lasered into, like, the glass on the glass is fucking weird. There's so much happening here that doesn't need to be.
I know, I always thought, like, the glasses were, like, a stupid thing for, like, to be the MacGuffin, because over, like, 150 years, they could have easily been damaged.
Right.
There was no way of, like, the Decepticons knowing those glasses were still intact.
I want to point out, lucky. At the point we're in, Optimus Prime shows up literally at the halfway point of the movie.
Yeah.
It takes
Which
an
I
hour.
Suppose makes sense.
Yeah, it takes like an hour and 10 minutes.
Especially if you're revving up for a big franchise.
The thing that people always kind of go back to is, like, how long it takes for Spider-Man to put the outfit on in Spider-Man, which is it's like an hour.
That makes sense. It's an origin story.
Yeah, but also, like, you're with Spider-Man that entire time. Like, you have a Transformers movie where you don't meet or even see or hinted about Optimus Prime until the midway point is a little bizarre.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so then this was the scene that really killed the movie for me. Where this next scene was where I died. Like, there's no coming back from this. Which is when he is trying to sneak into his house to get the glasses, and his parents are there,
my God.
and the Transformers are doing like
small soldiers hijinks.
Yeah, they're like doing like fucking Looney Tunes shit on the edge of the house so they don't get seen.
It's like Joe Dante just took over and directed this scene.
Oh my God, dude! Joe Dante would have found a way to make it funny.
Yeah, he would have.
He would have made them make like a real.
It feels like something from like Small Soldiers or like that Looney Tunes movie he did.
Yeah, a bit. It's
with
so
like none of the charm.
Yeah, where it's the problem is like they're so big and heavy. Like if you're within 100 feet of them, you would instantly know. There's no way
You'd feel it.
You would feel it.
You would have heard it. You would have heard because they are robots. So you would have heard something whirring. You would have straight up just noticed. There's like 5 of them creeping around your back garden.
It's fucking. Yeah, it's just garbage. And then, like, there's a weird problem where there are constant scenes in this movie where a person should see a Transformer and just doesn't. We're like, no, like you're visibly, you are so close to that person that they would look up instinctively and see you. There's no like escaping that. They just don't do it.
The fucking Tooth Fairy bit was fucking. That whole like exchange like walked like a fine line between endearing and completely cringe. If you remember what I'm talking about.
I don't think I don't remember a Tooth Fairy bit.
Like there's like a little girl and she's woken up.
Oh,
I think it's Jazz.
No, I remember.
Jazz crashes into her pool.
It might, yeah, it could be. Yeah, I remember that. That's like
she has like a little like she has like her tooth under her pillow and she goes down to like Jazz who's just like emerged, and she's like, "Are you the Tooth Fairy?" And then like, I'm surprised he didn't just turn around and say, "Bitch, please."
Yeah, like, it's so weird. It reminded me of Jurassic Park 2, which has a very
I was thinking more 3. I was thinking more Jurassic Park 3.
Well, 2 is the one where the T-Rex goes to the mainland, to San Diego, and it drinks from the pool, and the kid like wakes up and sees it.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of that. But I remember people giving that movie shit. Like, are you gonna tell me this fucking family wasn't woken up by an 8-ton monster walking around their backyard? But, like, imagine there being 4 of them.
Exactly.
So then there's...
Well, there's 5 of them, right?
Yeah.
It's
Jesus.
Bumblebee, Optimus, Jazz,
I feel like we're running out of steam all fucking ready, and we're not even halfway. We're like,
dude, by like the 50-minute mark of this movie, I was just losing interest.
Yeah.
And then like, it gets to a point where like the rest of it is just like a really rushed battle between the Autobots and the Decepticons. Like fucking Megatron barely has anything to do with the movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
He's immediately disposed of.
There's the whole lengthy sequence where the Men in Black show up to like investigate their aliens, which again, the hacker shit.
John Turturro's character, who I feel like his character has like no purpose in this first movie. I know he's in all of them, but like in this first movie, he feels like he's there for the sake of padding.
Well, that's the thing.
He's a completely separate like body from like the government figures in the movie.
No, you're right. That's the thing. If you cut the soldiers and the hackers from this movie, then his character makes perfect sense, because he's here to introduce the government and reveal that the government knows about them and everything. And that makes perfect sense. And the worst part is, you could cut those stories and, oh hey, the government is still a major part of this. And you lose nothing except 40 minutes of the runtime you don't need. That's what's so fucking infuriating.
It's like he needed to use everything he shot.
It feels
everything that was on that script they needed to include in the movie.
It feels like 3 different script writers had a movie they wanted to make and knew they never...
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what this movie has. 3 screenwriters to be
but
exact.
Like, each one of them was like, oh, I want to make I want to make this movie, but I'm never going to get it made on my own. I'm going to sneak it into this movie. But like 4 of them did it. So there's one, and it's a story of soldiers in the desert fighting aliens. And then there's one, and it's hackers trying to slowly realize that they're being like infiltrated. And then one of them wrote a Transformers script.
Alex Kurtzman's doing like the main story, the main like space fucking shit. He's doing like the main sci-fi element. And then like everyone else is trying to do like a military or like spy thriller.
Did you ever see, there's a Key and Peele sketch about, the writing of Gremlins 2?
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
It's a great skit where, like, a character shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm the sequel doctor. They bring me in to fix up the sequels. We're gonna go around, and everyone in the writer's room, and there's like 12 of them, is gonna design their own gremlin to put in the movie. No matter what. And that's what it feels like here. We're like, everyone in the writer's room gets their own character with its own arc, and we're not allowed to take it out of the film.
At least in Gremlins, they're kind of just like one singular entity.
No, in Gremlins it's fantastic because in Gremlins they're forming.
They all
like
have personality. They're all well designed. They all have a recognizable personality and trait.
Well, that's the other thing is in Gremlins having more Gremlins is a good thing. I don't think these guys weren't making Transformers. They were making human characters. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I get that entirely.
Sam Witwicky has a bathtub in his bedroom for some reason, and they don't ever explain it.
I mean, my aunt has a bathtub in her bedroom.
Really?
But I don't get why it would be in some fucking teenagers, like, ensuite. Why does your teenage son have an ensuite?
Weird. It must not be... I don't know. What an odd thing. They also establish with the Men in Black stuff.
I know you can get decorative bathtubs.
Yeah, but like they're expensive.
Why you would want one of them? Yeah, and why would you want one of them anyway? It's just weird.
So there's a fucking... They establish that the Transformers are so radioactive that they like are tracking them through radiation. And I looked it up because they're like, oh, Shia LaBeouf is like... Just by hanging out with them, he's given off like 12 rads of radiation. And I looked it up, and that's not a crazy high amount. It's higher than average, but it's not enough to be sick. But later in the movie, they established that the Transformers produce 40 rads of radiation at any given moment. And that, like, 25 is where you start to get ill. So they're just giant cancer monuments at this point.
It would be hilarious if, like, by the 3rd movie he was just dying of cancer.
That's what happens. That's why he disappears. That's why he's not in the 4th and 5th movie, is logically he just got cancer and fucking died.
Fuck, I can't wait to watch these again and just see this fucking art develop.
They get involved with the fucking MIBs, and the one dude, the leader of the CIA, reveals that Megan Fox has a criminal record. And Sam is really offended by this for some reason, and I don't know why he would be.
He's a white knight. He's her white knight. He's like, oh, she can't do anything bad. She's my angel.
Dude, if I was in fucking high school student, I found out this chick I had a crush on had like a criminal record, I wouldn't be like, what? You mean you're not fucking perfect? Like, I'd be like, that's cool as shit. That's an like that's kind of rad to have a criminal record at a point. She's not a violent criminal. She fucking, like, helped her dad steal fucking cars when she was a kid. Like, that's a cool story.
What a fucking Giga Chad.
At this point, I stopped writing my notes out. So at this point, I just gotta go off of memory. But I do want to say...
We're just gonna ramble.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't been doing much better. There was the fucking,
I think we'll have more to say about the fucking sequels.
I would hope so. I would hope on some level we have less to say. This, like, I feel like I'm still so fucking...
I feel like okay, Revenge of the Fallen, we're gonna have like a good like plan for that.
I'm
and
so
then
excited.
The movie may just ramble.
I'm so excited to see Revenge of the Fallen because it's universally considered the worst movie ever made, and like, holy shit, how could it be so bad that people retroactively look at this one favorably?
I know. So I feel like we're going to ramble again with Dark of the Moon, because I remember nothing of Dark of the Moon.
I remember a fair bit of Dark of the Moon. Dark of the Moon has at least a little more, like, character to it.
Yeah, Dark of the Moon is the one people consider to be, like, the actual, like, good one in retrospect. And then 4 and 5 is going to be a complete shit show, which I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah. There's, a weird scene where Bumblebee hits the CIA man in the back of the head with something and then pisses on him. I watched that scene frame by frame to try and figure out what Bumblebee hits him with. I had 2 people with me. None of us could...
I think it's the cap from his, like, oil...
That's what I thought, right? That makes sense. Oh, he's probably pissing gas or oil on him, so it's the cap.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
not.
That's what I thought.
But it isn't. A gas cap is like a hockey puck. This thing has volume. It looks like a mug. So then my next thought is like, oh, Shia LaBeouf must have like a mug that he put in the glove compartment or something.
I guess.
But I don't think they ever show or establish that, so it's so fucking weird. And also, it hits him in the back of the head pretty fucking fast, and he doesn't react to it at all. Like, if you hit me in the back of the head with a marshmallow at that speed, I would react to it.
It's like someone just, like, tossed a shoe at him. Not like threw it, just tossed it at him.
So, they capture Bumblebee, and they're torturing him, and they capture Sam. And we find out that, for some reason, Area 51 in this universe is basically built inside the Hoover Dam.
What is it with, like, the Hoover Dam and, like, movies and video games and comic books? Like, why is there such, like, a big, like
it's a
admiration
unique,
for the Hoover Dam?
It's a unique place. There's not really anywhere else quite like it. Neither in America or really anywhere else. I think it is still one of the biggest dams in the world. And it's like this gigantic concrete thing.
I think it was Superman the movie that kind of started this, like, focus in, like, disaster movies on the Hoover Dam.
Well, it's just like, you look down the slope and it's slanted. It's not a sheer drop. So there's a part of you that's just this part that's like human urge. It's like, man, I bet I could slide down there. Where you're like,
it's like you're looking at the pyramid in San Francisco.
Yeah. Or like, even like from afar, you look at the pyramids and it's like, oh, you get a skateboard or something. You just ride down the side of it. And, then you get there and you find out, no, it's a pile of steps. You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But the Hoover Dam kind of is.
I don't know what the pyramid's called in San Francisco, but I was looking down and it's like, you could pretty easily slide down that if it wasn't for the windows.
Did you see that, like, the water level in Lake Mead is now lower than it was in Fallout New Vegas?
I heard that. I didn't see it.
There was a story about how, like, because of the constant
read it,
droughts...
Someone told me that. I think David told me that.
Yeah, it's like because of all the fucked up droughts that are constantly happening in California, Lake Mead can't fill back up, so now it's, like, halfway empty. And then, like, people are posting pictures of it in Fallout New Vegas next to it to, like, judge how bad it is. That, like, in the nuclear apocalypse, like, objectively shit's better.
Okay, here's the thing with New Vegas. I don't need to ramble anymore, but, like, okay, so, like, the whole point of that is, like, the Hoover Dam has been, like, under, like, national preservation.
Sort of. I mean, people have pointed out rightfully that the reason that Lake Mead is empty is because they're constantly draining it for irrigation, and they wouldn't be doing that in the Fallout universe. So it's not actually a damning fucking thing. It's just funny to think of.
Yeah, anyway, back to whatever else we can milk out of talking about Transformers 1.
Yeah. So, it turns out that the US government has Megatron, like, under like, cryogenic freezing conditions in the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, they got him on ice.
And then they also have the Cube, which I don't think has a proper name, now that I'm thinking about it. I think it's only called the Cube.
It is just the Cube.
Which is the big fucking MacGuffin that they were all brought here to get. Because if they have the Cube...
I think it's called the Lifebringer.
It's like a fucking GAC from Fallout, where if you have this Cube...
Yeah, I think it is just straight up called the Lifebringer.
Yeah.
Or the Life-Giver, or something like that.
If they take this Cube back to their homeworld, they can fix it. But if the Decepticons take it back, they'll make it into, like, a hell world.
Yeah, it's the GAC.
And it's been here the whole fucking time. GAC, that's what it's called. Fucking GAC, Jesus. And it has the power to turn machines into sentient killing machines, and they show that by having a Nokia phone turned into a little death bot.
Yeah. Nokia is evil.
And then a character says...
Before Apple, that was Nokia.
And then a character says, the Japanese understand the way of the samurai. And then another character says, does he know that Nokia is from Finland? Which I think...
That is a non-joke.
I think if that joke had been orchestrated earlier in the film, I might have walked away from it and said, oh, that's kind of a good joke. But at this point in the film, I wanted to die.
Yeah.
Also, watching it here, where I was like, oh my god, when does it end? But now that I'm kind of seeing some of these scenes again, of like Starscream attacking the Hoover Dam, it's just a cool fucking set piece for an action scene. Where like you look at it,
like too fucking like there's too much padding up to that point.
Like
it has no effect.
Hoover Dam looks like a fighting game stage. It looks like something from a video game in real life.
Yeah.
There's a weird B-plot in this movie that, like, the Decepticons have destroyed the global communication network, but it never comes up. Like, really? Where, like,
yeah, there's no fallout from that at all.
There's not, like, a scene of, like, someone flipping on the TV and every channel is, like, the emergency broadcast system. There's not, like... it's so weird where it's all in the background where there's like, oh, heightening tension because of the Transformers are fucking with shit. But they don't really explain very well, so it always feels so distant and unimportant. So we're literally an hour and a half into the film, and Megatron has not shown up properly.
No, we've got like a few glimpses of him in his like crash-landed form, where he's like half Megatron, half Jet.
Yeah, and then they finally are like, oh, the Transformer that piggybacked on Shia LaBeouf got in, and he sabotaged it, so now Megatron is going to wake up. And, oh, okay, now we're at, you know, our big final fight, where, oh my god, there's so much more to this. Now that I'm seeing it again, there's a fucking scene where the soldiers, like, commit treason and beat up the CIA guys because, you know, they're trying to, like, they're on the wrong side, man. They're gonna help that kid.
We gotta preserve the truth. We've seen it with our own eyes.
They establish that, the U.S. government is basically torturing Bumblebee, and they're like, it's too fucking far, man. That's not the American way. We're all about the American way.
We only don't like the black robots.
Yeah. We don't like the robots that are not brightly colored. They go and they save Bumblebee, and he compacts the cube so that way they can transport it, because it's giant. There's a scene of it, it's so fucking goddamn. I don't care. As I'm saying this, I'm like, I don't actually give a huge shit about any of this.
It's just it's a complete non-movie after that. After like a point, after the chase with the Camaro and the cop car, it just becomes a nothing movie.
It's so hard to focus on any of it. So their plan is that the Autobots are going to take the cube away from Hoover Dam, and then they're going to draw out the Decepticons, and they're going to have a giant fight. In downtown Los Angeles, they explicitly decide to take the fight into the middle of one of the biggest population centers on the planet, instead of out in the middle of the fucking desert.
Because, okay, you need the 9/11 damage, you need the product placement, you need like a human element, you need like a human threat, as in like a threat to humanity.
Look,
like a direct threat is what I mean.
I understand you want to have the fight, your big final fight, in the middle of a city, because it's more visually interesting. It's cooler.
Yeah, and there's higher stakes for like, there's higher like immediate stakes for like the people living there.
Having the heroes actively say, we're going to go into downtown Los Angeles and have the fight. They say the words. Their plan is to have the fight.
They set it up. Their idea is to have the fight there. It's so just inconsiderate.
They plan to have that fight there instead of in fucking Hoover Dam, which is like, why? I guess if Hoover Dam breaks, that might be worse for LA.
Yeah.
So we finally get Megatron.
Have it in fucking Death Valley. That would have been cool.
Yeah, that could have been interesting. I guess the problem is then it's just sort of like an open season free-for-all.
Yeah.
So we see Megatron. He transforms. I will say this: Megatron, because he like crash landed, doesn't transform into like a human machine. He turns into like a kind of weird alien starfighter.
Yeah, he's like he looks like a classic mech. It's kind of cool,
Yeah.
but there's not enough of it.
Yeah, like it's interesting. Like I like the look of that. And then he meets Starscream, and he talks some shit to Starscream because that's one of like the 3 things the writers knew from Transformers is that Megatron does not like Starscream. They established the Decepticons all come together and they're going to go after the cube. There's like 5 Decepticons, 2 of which we've never seen before, none of which have any real characterization. And then there's that huge fight on the
None
highway.
of other than the cop car and like the little guy, the little like robot guy.
Yeah.
None of the Decepticons have like any characterization or like character development. They have no purpose in this movie other than to just be evil.
I remember seeing, I think his name is Blackout, the helicopter Decepticon, at the end of the movie, and thinking like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wish they had shown that earlier. And I just completely forgot he's at the start of the film.
Yeah, the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, like in my mind, I think
again,
I just
they're just there. They're like Chekhov's gun. They're just there. They're introduced. They're then put away until the big final battle, and then that's then done with.
And again, like now that I'm looking at this highway fight, it's a pretty good fight, all things considered. Out of context of the film, never stopping, like having them fight and like knock each other around on these highways is a cool idea. Like in practice, they do it pretty well. It's just at the tail end of so much garbage.
I know, it's such a poorly paced movie. Like we said, it feels like they had to get every line of the script on camera.
It just also
And
doesn't really...
it just creates a huge mess.
Like, they introduce a new Decepticon, and then he gets in a fight with Optimus, and then, you know, it's literally a minute and a half later that Optimus kills it. It's dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you couldn't have shown... I don't know, you couldn't have, like... established what that Decepticon was earlier in the film, and then like had it like maybe have it talk or taunt Optimus or something. Like, no, that would be
No, we need 40 minutes of like hackers like trying to like fucking
no. That's the thing. While this is
crack
happening,
the firewall.
it's literally intercut with the hackers trying to use like archaic equipment to send a message out to the Air Force. So that the Air Force will come and bomb the shit out of Los Angeles. At no point during this are they like, we gotta send an evacuation order. At no point are the soldiers ever like yelling at people on the side of the street to like, hey, get out of here. Something bad's going down.
Ah, that'll be fine. They're all insured.
And then... I know there's stuff in this final fight that like, in a vacuum is cool. Like, Bumblebee gets fucked up on it, like his leg gets fucked up. So they put him on the back of a tow truck and they drive him around while he like takes pot shots at like robots. That's cool on paper. It's just it's so fast. You have no time to process anything that it's just sensory.
You could build an entire set piece around that and they do nothing with it.
Yeah. Like, that would have been kind of interesting if the US government maybe fucked up Bumblebee so they had to like drag him there and he has to defend himself on the highway.
Yeah.
Maybe they lose the cube and the Decepticons intentionally take it downtown in Los Angeles. So that way, like, oh, they'll detonate it.
It's like a bargaining chip.
Well, I was like, oh, they'll detonate it and then it'll turn all the technology in Los Angeles into, like, their minions and they gotta stop it. And then now the heroes don't look like sociopaths.
No, there's like an actual, like, you know, cause and effect for the MacGuffin.
Yeah, and I just there's a shot of Starscream fighting like fighter pilots over LA, and he has to like transform for like 3 seconds to take shots at them, and then he has to transform again so he doesn't crash.
Yeah,
like,
that would have been cool.
Well, that's in the movie. It's a cool visual.
Yeah.
It's just hard
It's a
to,
cool
like...
visual, but, like, again, what I'm saying is you could build an entire set piece around that and they do nothing with it. It's just, like one little shot.
You could have had an arc with Starscream, like, getting into fights with fighter pilots and shit to kind of establish how ruined, like, how hard this fight is going.
Yeah.
There's the fucking Mountain Dew vending machine robot that
That's
shows
a
up.
2007 thing.
Yeah. It's not the only vending machine robot in these movies. I know that for a fact.
We'll have to look out for them. We'll do, throughout the show, we'll just do, like, vending machine watch.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. It's a bad movie. Like, there's really no else going around it. Like,
There's nothing else you could really say, because, like, the rest of the movie at this point is just, like, a big LA battle scene.
it's just like light noise and, like, nothing happens, but, like, there's reasons why it's bad. But in
every like sense of, like, the phrase, it is just straight up senseless violence. There is absolutely no, like, purpose to anything going on.
There's, like, a fucking...
I mean, of course, there's a purpose. What I mean is there's, like, no, like... There's no, like, drive or motivation for any of it. It's just happening for the sake of happening.
Yeah, like, Megatron and Optimus Prime are supposed to be, like, these diametric opposite, like, these pinnacles.
Yeah, these, like, age-old, eternal enemies.
Yeah, and they never talk. They, like, taunt each other a little bit, but, like, in my mind...
Megatron has hardly any dialogue, and he's voiced by, like, one of the biggest actors in the movie.
Yeah, he's Hugo Weaving, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, it's just a shame.
One of the biggest actors in the movie, and he has, like, barely any dialogue whatsoever.
And like, when Megatron and Optimus see each other for the first time, it should be like a Western. Like, everything should stop.
Yeah, everything should, like, stop, and they should be, like, staring at each other.
It should be like how...
Tensions revving up for who's gonna make the first move.
It should be like Godzilla and like, fucking Ghidorah seeing each other for the first time.
You should be fucking like Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. You should just do that.
Or, like, I'm like, there's a scene in The Boys...
These two opposites that are the same.
There's a scene in The Boys of, like, two characters meeting for the first time, and it feels like such a big moment. And I, like... Fuck, they should have done that with Optimus and Megatron, of, like, it should just be... It's such a... I'm exacerbated. It's all such lost potential, and, like, when you rewatch some of that's out of context, some of it works more than I remembered it working when I watched it the other day, but it's all in service of nothing.
Like, the whole movie is like watching audio decay in real time. There comes a point where it's just noise.
Right. And I feel like, honestly, as I'm thinking about this myself, I feel like for the last half hour, we have been circling the drain ourselves, of, like, trying to find... Of, like,
yeah, we've been trying to find, like, a focus for, like, where we should go with this, but,
where
like...
I've been like, oh...
Like I said, it becomes a nothing movie.
When I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna talk about Megatron and Optimus being wasted potential, but now that I'm here, it's like...
What's the point?
Like, what? Yeah, like, you know, like... The movie's bad, why would you ever expect it to be a good
The movie
thing?
doesn't try, so why should we?
Yeah. And, fuck. I guess that's it.
I guess that's it for Transformers 1. Because there really is nothing else to say on this.
No, it's, like, so weird. It's poorly paced. There's just garbage over and over again. Everything you
and yet it has fans. This is the highest rated out of all 6 movies.
I know. If you like carve out, if you watch it enough to the point where you can just zone out of the garbage, maybe it works. Maybe, like, if you're like...
No, I couldn't. No, because, like, it boils down to about, like, what, 30 minutes of, like, decent, like, action and moments.
Maybe if you...
I don't think it's worth that other 2 hour, like, period of just zoning out.
Maybe...
To get to, like, the 30 minutes of, like, something that's visually interesting.
Maybe if you wait 3 years and then you watch the final fight on YouTube, maybe then it's good. Or then it's like, oh, that was a good fight. That's cool. And then maybe that will be enough to, like, soften the blow of everything else about it.
maybe. It's just the length that kind of ruins it
Yeah, it really is.
in that regard.
Well, shit.
Is it worth shuffling through like 2 good action scenes and like an hour and 45 minutes of just pure crap to get to a decent final battle?
I feel like there's almost like you could edit this down to an hour and 20 minutes of an okay movie.
I'm sure somebody has done that.
I would hope so.
There must be a fan edit.
But like you can't add scenes, and they just need more like character for the Transformers to actually like give a shit.
Yeah.
For any of those fights
the
to
the Transformers, they're
anything.
side characters in their own movie.
Yeah.
Other than like Bumblebee.
Well, I guess that's that.
What's that? Now we have. Now it gets real.
Shit, Jesus. Well, there we
Oh my
go,
God.
ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed as nonsense and rambly as this was. I hope you enjoyed it.
I know. I had a good time.
I guess we will be back eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
See you then.
Well, when we both have the courage to watch Revenge of the Fallen.
I'm really, really looking forward to. I have to know.
Oh, I have to do. I am pumped. This is going to be an absolute shit show.
I've seen 4 and 5 recently enough to know why they're bad. I haven't seen. I don't like. I watched Fallen like one time.
Yeah, I don't remember. I do not remember much of the other 2 Sam Witwicky movies.
Yeah.
When I think about Transformers, I mostly think about how big of an absolute nightmare Age of Extinction is, and how much I can't wait to finally see The Last Night.
Yeah. I'm looking
Because
forward.
if I thought that movie was a nightmare, then holy shit.
Well, that's it.